The future of TikTok hangs in the balance. The social media app has more than 1 billion users worldwide and 170 million in the U.S. alone. But there's a chance that could all change. Last month, President Joe Biden signed a bill that would essentially ban TikTok here in the U.S. unless its parent company, ByteDance, sells the platform within 9 months. ByteDance could get a 3-month extension if a sale is already in progress. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have long expressed concerns that China was using the app to spy on Americans. But as expected, today, TikTok and ByteDance both sued the federal government to block the law. In the complaint, the companies argue that the law is unconstitutional. They say the law blocks free speech and prevents users from accessing lawful information. They also say there is no way ByteDance can possibly divest from TikTok for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that it would need permission from the Chinese government. But the White House reiterated today the president believes an ownership change is necessary.
Do we want TikTok as a platform to be owned by an American company or owned by China? Do we want the data from TikTok, children's data, adults' data, to be staying here in America or going to China? That is the fundamental question at issue here, and the president is clear where he stands.
The bill passed in a 352 to 65 vote. Some of those no votes came from Bay Area representatives like Ro Khanna. He said we need sweeping data privacy laws, but a bill targeting just one company, not a bill targeting just one company. And East Bay Congresswoman Barbara Lee said, quote, while it's undeniable that TikTok's data collection practices need addressing, the process behind this particular bill was rushed and done in secrecy. Now, this isn't the first time TikTok has gone to court with the federal government. The app sued in 2020 over an executive order. Then President Trump signed the order banning the app. Courts blocked the order, and the Trump administration said they had a deal for Walmart and Oracle to take large stakes in TikTok. In 2021, President Biden signed an executive order directing the Commerce Department to investigate apps from China. And in February of 2023, the White House gave government agencies 30 days to remove TikTok from all federal devices and computer systems. Now, at the time, the Office of Management and Budget said the move was aimed at protecting U.S. data. Congress has been holding hearings on TikTok for the past 3 years, and a group of TikTok creators rallied outside Congress in March, asking them to reconsider this ban.
I've watched this app do so much more than what is depicted elsewhere. I've seen this app raise over $1 million for the American Heart Association after I went through open heart surgery in May of 2020 during the pandemic when my wife wasn't even allowed to be by my side. This app showed up for her to support her when she couldn't be by my side. This app is so much more than just an app for dumb TikTok dances. So when I hear these elected officials literally mock and make fun of TikTok and its creators, I'm disgusted.
And while TikTok and the feds fight over its fate, people's livelihoods hang in the balance. Coming up, we'll hear from a Bay Area influencer who tells us how much she stands to lose if the app goes dark. And we'll ask a professor from Cal State East Bay if the potential ban could, in fact, be considered unconstitutional. Stay with us. TikTok says there are about 7 million small businesses on the app that support about 250,000 jobs. One of the people making a living on TikTok is Kara Harms. Amanda Harry has more on what the ban could mean for her and her 5 staff members in San Francisco.
Really great. I have local businesses tell me that they've all been all booked. I just found the coolest speakeasy in the Inner Sunset.
Kara Harms says she's been on TikTok since the beginning.
I have been creating content for 9 years now, and it started with Instagram. And then when TikTok came on the scene in 2019, I immediately jumped on it.
Harms makes content about traveling and the city of San Francisco, often promoting small, local businesses.
Recently, someone told me they can feel how much I love San Francisco through my content. I like to speed things up.
In about 5 years, her page @WhimsySoul has amassed a following of 350,000 people. More than 7 million people have liked and interacted with her content content.
Here, let's
But
say if I
soon,
wanted to
all of
reply to
that could be
this,
coming to
I
an
can.
end.
Really annoyed, I'm not gonna lie. TikTok and social media is such a great way for people to share ideas and assemble and learn. I know our lawmakers like to pass it off as this silly little app where dances happen and kids hang out, but my husband learned sourdough that he's baking right now.
But lawmakers are concerned TikTok's parent company, the Chinese-owned ByteDance, could use the app to spy on Americans, spread misinformation, or sow divisions. California State East Bay professor of media studies, Dr. Nolan Higdon, says even free apps come at a cost.
I think one of the mistakes that a lot of folks make is that they think it is free. You have to give up your privacy, which is a huge cost to a lot of folks. And everything you do on there, everything you create, all the time you spend on there, that's labor, and you're not paid for it any sort of wage. But meanwhile, the platform profits from it.
And Harms says that ban wouldn't just hurt her, but her staff. She has 5 people working for her and says many other creators also have employees.
Now we're just gonna upload that.
Most of the money she earns is through sponsored content. She says without TikTok to post it on, she'll likely lose 30% of her total revenue.
I might have to cut people. We just hired on a new email manager this morning, actually. So I hope I don't have to cancel that contract. So we'll see.
And joining me live now is Dr. Nolan Higdon. You just saw him in that story right there. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so what do you think? Does TikTok have a case here? Is this ban unconstitutional?
It certainly seems like they may have a case on First Amendment grounds, certainly. The case they're making is that this is an effort by the government to try and silence free speech and free expression, which can be a tough case to prove, but we've seen the sitting Secretary of State and even Senator Romney have confirmed that in part they were motivated to do this ban because they didn't like some of the information, particularly about Gaza, that was on the platform. So there is a case to be made that it seems like the government was more motivated by suppressing information than some of the other arguments that have been given.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit more into this kind of historic nature of this ban, because it essentially means national security is taking precedent over free speech. Do you think this ruling could have wider implications?
Absolutely. There's a long history of those in power arguing that we need to give up civil liberties or our rights in order to secure national security. As critics have often noted, this kind of begs the question: if we're giving up our rights for security, what are we securing if not our rights? And this has been an age-old debate throughout the United States. And I think this question about the TikTok ban is simply just the latest part of that journey and discussion.
Yeah, some are calling it even the Trojan horse for censorship. Do you believe in that?
I do. I think there are legitimate critiques to make about social media, and I clearly have made them as well. But it does seem like the motives for this ban were less about the problems with social media in terms of mental health or screen addiction, and had more to do with trying to suppress information. I think a lot of people in power are, quite uncomfortable with these vast protests, particularly by young people, and they blame the content on TikTok for giving folks the information that motivates them to participate in these movements.
I want to get back to that point in just a moment, but what about the people who are making a living off TikTok? Do they have a case against the government?
They may have one. I think this speaks to a larger problem that a lot of critics have been noting for decades now. A lot of people's livelihood and information base is invested in these private companies. And, we don't have a lot of, democratic oversight. We don't have a lot of protections in place for people who are on these platforms. And now the government is coming in saying they can just erase this platform that so many people have used, not just for employment or to sell things, but also to connect with people. We should be reminded that, there are some good purposes for social media. I think of maybe young people who are trying to find their identity or wrestling with complications. Sometimes they can go online to get some of the support they can't find at home. So it's a complicated question, and I think a ban across the entire platform seems quite kind of draconian, given the other good things that come from the platform.
You touched on this earlier. Now, if this ban goes through, what do you think the residual effects of this are? Do you see a potential for more restrictions on other social media apps, especially when it comes to misinformation?
I think that's one of the things the industry is probably quite afraid of. Basically for the last 30 or so years, lawmakers have avoided any serious regulation of the industry. This TikTok ban is a huge swing in the other direction. And one has to wonder if this will open up the floodgates for other potential legislation. If the public reacts positively to this ban, will that be a sign to lawmakers that the public is open to other sorts of constraints on these platforms? That remains to be seen, but historically, that's how things have gone. Usually, once lawmakers see that the public is receptive to something, then they're willing to go further.
All right, Dr. Nolan Higdon with Cal State East Bay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, it's not just the feds who are taking on TikTok. Still ahead, how some states are policing the app, all in the name of protecting kids. And a closer look at how TikTok can drive customers to the stores in droves. Now, the problem with social media, and not just TikTok, by the way, is that it's taking a toll on the mental health of our kids. A recent study by the U.S. Surgeon General found that teens reported spending an average of 3.5 hours a day on social media. Nearly half of the teens said that it made them feel worse about their body image. The study recommended keeping kids completely off social media, totally, until they are at least 14 years old.
And what we know is at age 14, we're able to start that process of reasoning. One of the concerns is that if social media becomes prominent so early, it might displace some of those other healthy activities.
Florida recently banned children under 14 from using social media altogether. And a couple of months ago, California's Attorney General joined nearly every other state in a brief demanding TikTok comply with investigations into how social media impacts kids' mental health. We also know that TikTok is a major trendsetter, from people learning dances to their favorite songs or lip syncing to popular movies. And remember this. Earlier this year, there were close to 14 million posts about colorful bags sold at Trader Joe's. I still don't understand this one, but this is video of folks in Southern California just swarming a display. The user posted, "Rain or shine, we're going to get our bags." There were even reports of the $3 totes being resold online for a huge markup. Today, we saw one listed for $50. Whoa, for that little bag. And Walgreens is reportedly limiting online sales of a gummy candy. A glowing TikTok review blew it up in January, causing the product to completely sell out nationwide in just 4 days. Gummy mango candy. Interesting. Must be really good. Walgreens plans to sell it in more stores beginning May 22nd. So it's coming back. And the app has taken off with readers as well. The New York Times reports that books featured with the hashtag BookTok typically end up on the bestsellers list with more than 161 million posts. The most talked about books are romance and fantasy. It's so big that even Barnes & Noble has a section online and in their stores dedicated just to books featured on the app. It's pretty amazing, the impact. We'll be right back. Coming up tonight at 5, schools in San Francisco are short on money. The meeting happening tonight that could determine some tough cuts. That story and much more with Ryan Yamamoto and myself coming up tonight at 5. And thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation on the future of TikTok. We'd love to hear what you think. Should it be banned here in the U.S.? Post your thoughts online using the hashtag KPIX. CBS EV News is next right here. Local news continues on our streaming service, CBS News Bay Area. I'll see you at 5.
Thanks for watching. You can always get all the latest headlines and weather over on Pix Plus. And remember to like and click the button on the bottom left of your screen to subscribe for the biggest Bay Area news.